The morning rain fell like judgment the day everything changed, streaking down the glass walls of the corporate tower as if the building itself was crying. Inside, a single decision made in a sterile boardroom would unknowingly collide with fate, mercy, and a truth no balance sheet could measure. This is a story about power and pride, about loss and redemption, and about how the coldest hearts are sometimes shattered by the quietest acts of love. Before we go further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us what it truly means to be human, please like this video, comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep these stories alive. Daniel Whitmore was known across Chicago's financial district as the Cold CEO. At 46, he ran Whitmore Industries with ruthless efficiency. Numbers mattered, time mattered, people only when they performed. His suits were flawless, his tone controlled, and his heart locked behind layers of ambition built after the sudden death of his wife years earlier. Since then, Daniel lived for one thing only: success. His teenage daughter, Emily, existed on the edges of his life, cared for by nannies and private schools while he chased deals and dominance. He told himself it was all for her future, even though he barely knew her present. At the lobby entrance of Whitmore Industries sat Samuel Carter, the security guard everyone noticed not because of authority, but because of perseverance. Samuel was in his early 50s, a former Army veteran who had lost the use of his legs after an IED explosion overseas. His wheelchair never slowed his alertness or dignity. Every morning he arrived early, greeting employees with warmth, remembering names, holding doors, and watching the security monitors with unwavering focus. For many, Samuel was the soul of the building, though he never asked to be seen that way. When Daniel noticed Samuel for the first time, it was not admiration that crossed his face, but irritation. From his perspective, the presence of a wheelchair-bound guard at the front desk symbolized weakness, inefficiency, and liability. In a company obsessed with image and performance, Samuel did not fit the picture Daniel wanted investors to see. Without asking about Samuel's record, dedication, or story, Daniel issued a cold directive to human resources: cut costs, remove non-essential personnel, replace him with someone who looked more capable. The termination was swift and personal. Samuel listened quietly as the words were delivered, his hands folded, his expression calm. He thanked the HR manager, wished them well, and wheeled himself out of the building for the last time. No bitterness, no argument, just silent acceptance. That evening, Samuel prayed for strength, not revenge. He had survived war, pain, and loss. He would survive this too. Weeks passed. Daniel barely remembered the decision. His world revolved around a major merger that would solidify his legacy. Late nights became routine. Missed dinners with Emily became normal. He told himself there would be time later. Then one night, everything collapsed. Emily was rushed to the hospital after a sudden medical emergency that no one had seen coming. A rare infection attacked her immune system, leaving her unconscious in intensive care. Daniel arrived at the hospital in a panic he had never felt in boardrooms or negotiations. The machines, the sterile smell, the uncertainty shattered his illusion of control. For the first time in years, money could not fix the problem. Days blurred into nights as Daniel sat by Emily's bed, watching her chest rise and fall, praying silently despite having long abandoned faith. Guilt crept in with every memory of birthdays missed, school plays unattended, and conversations postponed. The doctors were careful but honest. The next 48 hours would be critical. One evening, exhausted and hollow, Daniel stepped out into the hallway. That was when he saw him. At the end of the corridor sat a familiar figure in a wheelchair, positioned outside Emily's room. Samuel Carter, dressed neatly in a simple security uniform bearing the hospital's logo, alert eyes scanning every movement, hands resting calmly on his lap. For a moment, Daniel thought stress had warped his vision, but it was real. Samuel was guarding his daughter. Samuel had taken a job at the hospital after being fired. The pay was lower, the shifts longer, but the work felt meaningful. When he was assigned to the pediatric wing, he treated it as sacred ground. When Emily was admitted, Samuel noticed immediately. He recognized her last name from the building. He recognized her eyes from the few times she had visited her father's office. Without hesitation, Samuel made it his personal mission to ensure no one disturbed her rest, that nurses could work freely, and that the hallway remained calm. Daniel stood frozen, shame flooding his chest. The man he had dismissed as expendable was now standing watch over the most precious thing in his life. Samuel noticed Daniel and offered a gentle nod. Not resentment, not accusation, just quiet respect. That silent gesture broke something inside Daniel. Over the next days, Daniel observed Samuel from a distance. He watched how Samuel spoke softly to anxious parents, how children smiled when he rolled by, how nurses trusted him completely. He learned from a nurse that Samuel often stayed past his shift, refusing extra pay, simply because he believed being present mattered. Daniel learned that Samuel had a son who died young, and that protecting children was his way of honoring that loss. Emily slowly began to recover. When she finally opened her eyes, Samuel was there, making sure the room was quiet, dim, and safe. Emily later told her father that the man in the wheelchair made her feel protected when she was scared and alone, that she felt like someone was watching over her when he wasn't there. Those words cut deeper than any loss Daniel had ever faced. In the quiet hours of the hospital, Daniel confronted himself. He saw the man he had become, a leader who measured worth by appearances, a father who confused provision with presence, a human being who forgot compassion in the pursuit of control. Samuel never once mentioned the firing, never demanded an apology. His dignity was a mirror Daniel could not escape. When Emily was discharged, weeks later, Daniel waited until the hallway was empty. He wheeled himself over to Samuel, his voice heavy with emotion. He thanked him, he apologized, he acknowledged the mistake he had made not just as a CEO but as a man. Samuel listened, eyes kind, and simply placed a hand over his heart in understanding. The next Monday, Whitmore Industries made headlines. Daniel announced a new corporate initiative focused on inclusive employment, veteran support, and human-centered leadership. But more importantly, he personally reinstated Samuel Carter as head of security operations, with full authority, respect, and benefits. The lobby desk was redesigned to accommodate accessibility, not hide it. Samuel was no longer an image problem. He was a symbol of strength. Daniel also changed at home. He reduced his hours. He attended Emily's therapy sessions. He learned how to listen. On Sundays, they attended church together, quietly rebuilding something sacred they had both lost. Before this story ends, we have a special request for you. Please comment the word kindness below if you believe that compassion can change lives, even when it comes too late, or from the most unexpected place. Years later, Daniel would often say that the greatest lesson of his life did not come from business school or boardrooms, but from a man in a wheelchair who taught him what it meant to truly stand guard, guarding hearts, guarding dignity, guarding humanity. And if this story touched your heart, if it made you pause, reflect, or feel something deep inside, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and leave a comment. Your engagement helps spread stories that remind us the world can still be softened by grace, one quiet act at a time.